Hey guys, this is John here in Los Angeles with the Alpha Channel update for Tuesday, August 6th, 2024. And today's look at Zero number 12 is brought to you by Legacy of a Mad Scientist and Legend of Ashley Fox. Audiobooks here on YouTube for you guys to check out. Science fiction, audio, fantasy about a young girl and her brother who go on the run from government agents and then have to fight off a gang of serial killers who run an orphanage. So, free for you to check out. Also in the description is a PDF, Ashley Fox, The Last Valkyrie. It is a comic book I tried with a friend of mine a while back. We're still working on the story. Right now we're working on a different part, but this is when Ashley and Reverend Wolf save a bunch of children from being child trafficked. Kind of relevant with all the stuff going on. And yeah, these two sponsored today's look at Zero, number 12. I think there's a title to this one. This is the cover. Zero number 12, Family Reunion by Alice Cott and Adam Gorham. See, part of the problem with having a new illustrator for every issue is that, so check this out, this is like a prison down here, or an asylum of some kind of institution on the cover. It's a nice watercolor, I suppose, if you're into that kind of thing. Jackson Pollock aside. The art in this one is passable, except for the splatter. So this continues the story, and now what's going on right here is this guy has grown into a wall. And he's talking to someone about the colors. The colors are so pretty. And that's Edward Zero that he's talking to. And a couple books back, Edward rescued Sarah, and I didn't recognize it was him. I'm going to show you in a second here why this is relevant. Okay, so then Edward confronts this kid who is urinating in the corner and apparently lives in this location. And he is the one patient zero, for lack of a better term. Edward is also called Zero. Edward's called Edward Zero. But this guy is, he lives in this tent with all these other people who are grown into the walls where some bacteria has gotten loose. This is kind of like the beginning of Last of Us. I'm just realizing that now, the video game, if you guys have played it. I didn't watch the TV show with the guy from Game of Thrones. But, yeah. And this is a weird thing, too, where this kid has all his teeth, and then he bites into a beer and loses a bunch of them and doesn't bother him. And it looks like he'd already lost a few, but you can see in this top panel he has all his teeth. I'm not sure this isn't being made up as it's being drawn, but whatever. It does have one writer. It doesn't have one illustrator. Here's some more of the drama that's supposed to be shocking and scary and terrifying. But because you don't care about these characters, it really doesn't have that much effect. I suspect that this is the kid later who points a gun at him, but that kid is much younger, or this kid would be much older. This guy is just a typical sort of English. He's kind of a cliche character because he doesn't have a lot of effect in the story. The story is really operating on shock value. And I suppose there's some mystery to be had, but now we have Edward being debriefed by Sarah. And this is after he rescued her and quit and had a girlfriend and she sent someone to kill them. Now this is important. I pulled this other book out. This is 8. We're on 12 and this is 8. So this is the one where Sarah's being attacked and people are being shot. And this guy is the one she first meets. So this is Edward Zero, right? I didn't recognize him because it's constantly different illustrators, and that the way this, I'm flipping backwards through the fight, it's kind of like we're backing up. But so here's this blonde guy who's like Edward, except that he's against her and all his guys attack her, and then Edward kills their sniper. I didn't even realize it was him. And then so at the end, he's the one who kills all their bad guys, hunts them down Rambo style until she's the only one left, and he approaches her and tells her he quit. And before he'd sent I believe he sent a paper swan, an origami swan. This was actually, I like the way they draw her. I like the way they draw her in this one, although it's not lit. It's kind of lit. I mean, you can see some lighting up here, but it's not cross-hatched at all. And I'm really looking at comics for cross-hatching. That's the part of my lighting is my big challenge. I feel like I'm decent at proportions and perspective, and I really need to focus on lighting. So here we get back to her explaining why she needed him to go in there and talk to this guy. Whether he killed him or not doesn't really seem to matter. I like this art too, is pretty good. I like the way they crop the faces, the way they, build tension. But because I don't like the way she looks like the actress who played Vesper in the James Bond movie. I think her name is Eva Green. I hate that actress, and so I don't like seeing her here. I've noticed this since the 2000s, where artists use actors to fill in for especially this shot of her little smile. I guess that's more of a, what's her name from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Sarah Michelle Gellar. Maybe she's using a Sarah Michelle Gellar wannabe. I don't know. But this looks like actresses. This looks like famous actresses. That might be Ellen DeGeneres' little smirk. It's a good smirk. I hate her, And if that's the emotion you want to arouse, then you're doing a good job, because I thoroughly despise her character. That's the one character I have any feeling for, is that I hate her, and I want to see her get murdered. But murdering women is like when they murdered that Agent Walker in Sons of Anarchy. The DEA agent, the ATF agent, the corrupt one, who killed her friend and then blamed Jax and the gang, or blamed a Mexican gang, I think, or an Asian gang. So what happens here is she shows him that his father was forced to cut him from his mother's stomach, and that his father is Z-Sec, and then he had to kill his father. And that's why it's called Family Reunion. And I guess I could have seen it coming, and I suppose it would matter if I cared. And now we spend 4 pages showing me that they're about to be attacked by maybe the guys who made Z-Sec kill himself. I don't know. Does it really matter? These might be the Israelis because of that agent that Zero killed. I don't care. All Israelis can fucking die. Israel's a mess. You Zionists are destroying the world. You're a fucking disaster. Nobody needs you. You and the Africans, nobody needs you. World history, well, I can't say world history would be the same without the Jews. Jesus. And there we go. Wildwood Tarot for today. This is a very telling card, the Six of Stones, exploitation. And isn't this what's going on in the world today? So I have a little book of stories that I've read that are similar to Zero here. Let's start off with The Fifth Angel by David Wiltsey, which is a 80s paperback about a special forces agent whose whole job is to be revenge when his country gets destroyed. And he gets trapped in a training episode, exercise in like a foxhole, like a literal foxhole. They didn't know he was in there, and a truck drives by and it like compacts the ground, and they don't find him for like 5 days or something, and so he was deprived of oxygen or whatever, and he's brain damaged. And he'd been in an asylum, theoretically next door to Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees or whoever else this, serial killers are, and he escapes, and he starts to get the revenge on. He believes he's behind enemy lines, and there's been like a nuclear war, nuclear strike or whatever, and that he's been activated, and so he believes he's in like a city like Moscow or something like that, an enemy city, maybe Jerusalem or Tel Aviv, and he starts doing things like poisoning the water supply and destroying the infrastructure of the city, like publicly, so that the city knows that they've got, basically a serial killer trying to murder everyone in the town. And it's an interesting book. And I have a whole list of them here. The Day of the Jackal, I watched that movie. I've read a bunch of Tom Clancy stuff. I read the Mark Greaney stuff, which we talked about, The Gray Man. They had a movie with Ryan Reynolds a little while ago against Chris Evans, which is pretty funny. Was it Ryan Evans? No, it was Ryan Gosling, not Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Gosling against Chris Evans. And that was pretty hilarious. Whatever. They're not letting that girl from Iron Fist do any more Kung Fu, apparently. She's still getting in lots of movies, but I think she's supposed to have something coming out. Maybe she's in Borderlands, I don't know. Anyhow, so that's Gray Man. What else? I've got a little list here that I can barely read because it's so far away. Born Identity, Altered Carbon. I mentioned these the other day. The Stephanie movie with Blake Lively, I was going to look that up and I forgot. La Femme Nikita and all the versions of La Femme Nikita. Point of No Return. La Femme Nikita with Peter Wilson. La Femme Nikita with Maggie Q. Warhammer stuff is very much appropriate for this. The Illuminati trilogy, which I haven't finished, has a lot of elements of this kind of nonsense in it. But the most important one is Hannah. Because it seems that the writers of this stuff, the amateurs, the tourists, and it's hard to call Luc Besson a tourist after he did La Femme Nikita, but Hannah was definitely a trope-ridden movie. And this one is suffering from the same thing. All your main character wants... Oh, the joy's life in the big city. All the main character wants in these is out. All they want is out, and it's not a compelling story. Hannah was fun to watch, but it wasn't a compelling story. The other one, I believe it's called Hannah 2. Or no, the one I'm thinking of is Anna. And Hannah is the same sort of thing, where Eric Bana raises his daughter in the woods, and then they have the other guy who raises his daughter. It's like a whole series. Oh, yeah, Joel Kinnaman. Joel Kinnaman, who was in Altered Carbon. Look at how they're all connected. But Anna, the Luc Besson movie with Sasha Luss, where all she wants is to get out. And Cillian Murphy is her handler, and Luke Evans is her Russian. Cillian Murphy is her CIA wannabe defector handler, and Luke Evans is her Russian handler. And I'm trying to remember, I think it might not have been Charlotte Rampling. No, it wasn't Charlotte Rampling. I don't remember who played the old woman, her boss. It might have been, I should know her name. She's really famous. Doesn't matter. There was some clever lines in it, but a story's got to be more than clever lines. If it's clever lines, you're just phoning it in for a paycheck, and all she wants is out. I mean, that's not a compelling 18 issues. I'm reading them, but this is more of a how not to do it. Definitely not to hire a different artist for every issue. That really... Imagine having a different director and a different set of actors for every episode of a TV show. That's what they did here. Different director and a different group of actors, sometimes completely race swapping the actors. At least between mulatto to Asian to Latino to white. They're at least playing around that far. Why not go all the way? In the next one, he should just be black. That's basically what you guys are doing with history. You guys are clowns. You're throwing away 65,000 years of people learning more than you to say that you know it all. That's a really stupid move. And I know this because I'm a bit older than most of you. So I don't look it, but I am. So yeah. It's funny to watch the real news. Kamala Harris picking this other guy, Tim Weiss. That's pretty hilarious. The Josh Shapiro thing would have insulated her from a lot of problems, but it also could have meant her being, pushed aside so he could take over. A Jewish president is in the immediate future. And if not then or shortly after, the country will collapse. So Motorcycle's home. He's probably going to run it for 5 or 10 minutes, and I don't really have that much to say. So, Motorcycle's gone. But like I said, I don't really have that much to say. So, I had just taken all this down, and there's one more thing I want to mention before I'm done for today. Machiavelli's The Prince. It's better to be feared than loved. The exact quote is, if you must choose, it is safer to be feared than loved. And in today's world, that could never be less true. I don't think it was even true back then. I think that's a big part of why he didn't publish that book. That book said a lot of other really important things, like if you're going to rule over a people, you must go there to live. And that's part of what's happening with these Zionists thinking they can live everywhere and rule over everyone. It's not going to work out the way they planned. The idea that it's better to be feared than loved, Prince Joffrey thought so. So did the Mountain. And you can go back through tons of history where all the tyrants thought it was better to be feared than loved. Caesar forgave all his enemies, and they banded together and stabbed him to death. So he was trying to be loved. And for 2,000 years, everyone executed their enemies because of that education. Right now, tyrants are just getting picked off. And you Jews think you can rule as a group and not be called out as tyrants. And you think dodging the Josh Shapiro vice president for Kamala Harris, you think we don't know that your hand is up, that Blinken's hand is up Biden's behind? Puppet regimes, it's not going to work in the long run. The whole world is on fire. It's not going to work.